So YouTube, the Maserati has gotten a bit of a makeover. I've upgraded the wheels. Most of you remember the car with the 22-inch wheels. 22-inch wheels are just way too big for this car. I'm not sure because it's the GTS Sport. But again, the biggest issue I think with this year with the Quattroporte is the lack of information. You literally have to scroll for days and you find nothing. You can get information on like the newer Quattroportes and like your Gran Turismos. You can't get anything on the Quattroporte. So my shocks seem to be good. My struts seem to be good. There were some conversations on some forums as to whether or not the GTS Sport is lower in stance or so forth and so on. But even then, the 22-inch wheels were just way too big. They were tearing through the wheel wells on the car. Every time you hit a divot or every time you made a turn, I just knew they were too small. So initially, I actually wanted to go with some Ferrari rims. I found a guy online selling some Ferrari rims, 22-inch in the rear, which would be fine in the rear, and then 21-inch in the front. I actually paid for them on eBay. He canceled. My thought process is he didn't want to ship them, but they were a good deal. But I'm actually glad he canceled the deal. These are actually 5x114. These are made by a company called Renan. 245, 35, 21 in the front, and in the back is 285, 30, 21. I didn't think I would be a fan of the red. I don't think it looks bad. They need to be cleaned up. Obviously, they're a bit dirty. But with the red and the black, I don't think it's too much. Your opinion, you can leave in the comments. But there were a couple things that I had to do in order to make this work. These rims are 5x114.3, but they are not made specifically for a Maserati. So I had to do some work because everything with Maseratis, a name attached to it, is just expensive. You know it, whether it's new or old. The cars are cheap, the parts are not. But again, I wouldn't trade the sound or the feeling of driving this car for nothing. For everybody out there that like hates on these Quattroportes, please get in the driver's seat. They're very affordable. I don't drive the car much. It actually, it's here because when I want to drive, I feel like I got like a NASCAR. I mean, just power in this car. You can feel it. And there's no other feeling. And again, I've owned probably 50, 60 cars in my life. I've raced them, repaired them, fixed them up, taken them to shows. This is the car that does it for me, and I didn't have to do a whole lot to it. I put some wheels. If you follow my videos, did a new double dent install. I actually reverted it back to the factory amplifier, but I'm getting ready to actually upgrade that to an 1800 watt amplifier, 5-channel. And the reason being is the Bose amp that comes with these cars do not do the actual speakers justice. And I noticed that when I upgraded the rear amplifier before. And then I'm going to probably go with an Alpine R10, which or Type R, which is my go-to. I mean, if anybody has seen a Type R, that little sub hits. But back to this, there were a couple things that I had to do. These were 5x114.3. I believe they were on a Honda Accord, is what I was told. I always go with spline lugs, and so the front I was able to get fitted. As you can see, it's tight, but it clears the caliper, which is pretty big on these cars. The other thing that I had to do was a hub adapter, so a hub spacer, sorry. These are 67.1. These wheels are actually, I believe the hub on them is 73.1. Hub spacer is important on any car for vibration purposes, but more importantly on a car that uses wheel studs. You want to make sure you got that correct surface contact. And so the hub spacers were very inexpensive. Some companies sell plastic. I went with aluminum, and you can actually get them at Amazon for less than 12 bucks, and that's where these wheel spacers came from. The fronts are actually 9-inch wide. Now the rears were a little different story. Initially, they did not clear the caliper, okay? So those wheels, these are 10.5 in the rear, they didn't clear the caliper at all. So I actually had to go with 25 millimeter hub adapters on these. And so you definitely want to go hub centric. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot of things that I figure out how to do cheaply. What you're attaching your wheels to your car with shouldn't be one of them. So I went with a company called Block Sport. They were initially 160 bucks. I talked them down to like 126, but you got two 25 mil hub adapters, and they sit on a 67.1, and then you could put the hub ring spacer on there to actually fit these wheels. Now, the other issue that I encountered with these wheels were the fact that even though they're 5 by 114.3, because these are studs, they would not go on. They would like go on at an angle. So initially I put the fronts on, which was done in a short, and then I was going to take the rears to a shop to get them done. But I actually know a few fabricators, had some conversations. I said, you know what? It wasn't off by much. I mean, like literally, it wasn't off by much. And the only thing that they're going to do is they were going to widen the hose. So I said, okay, well, let me widen the hose. So I actually purchased a step bit kit, of course, Milwaukee. And I'm going to tell you, this kit was phenomenal. I only needed to, I actually went with the number 4. Okay, as you can see, I had the board down to like 14/16. Or is that, I'm sorry, 11/16. And let me tell you, they went on with no problem. And definitely torque. So when you read a lot of the platforms, again, the information for these cars is so few. But a lot of people agreed you wanted to go between 80 and 100. A lot of people looked at about 88. My son has an MK4 Golf. It's about 88. With aftermarket rims, I decided to meet in the middle. I went at 90, okay? And what they tell you to do is re-torque them, or torque them, back them off, and re-torque them again because the wheel is going to seat. I did not do that. What I typically do is I drive the car short distances, lift it back up slightly just so the wheel is still touching the ground, and re-torque it. But with these wheel studs, I definitely recommend re-torquing, okay? And then some of you might not agree with this, but I always put a short line of Loctite, okay? A real small dab of Loctite on these studs. I remember years ago when I was a kid, I drove a Peugeot, which actually had the same wheel studs. It was actually the first car that I ever owned that had wheel studs. And so I was driving, I believe in Bristol, Pennsylvania, and the wheel came flying off me, like right before the exit of the Burlington-Bristol Bridge. I put Loctite on these, okay? Again, not a lot, but you want to put like a dab on each one. You want to make sure it's torqued properly. But the more important thing is you want to make sure that you use hub-centric products. You don't want to leave any room for wheel vibration in these wheels. Now, the other reason why I got these, and you're not going to believe this, I paid $350 for this set of wheels. So, I had to drive to an area of town to pick them up where it was almost like stick and move. But at the end of the day, I got some 21-inch wheels painted. I didn't paint them. That's the color they came, for $21. I mean, for $350. So total investment, $350 for the rims, okay? And these rims, I actually looked online. They're about $900 a piece just for the rim, not including the tire. And the tires came with them also. So $350 wheels and tires. Wheel bolts cost me about 26 bucks, but I actually already had them for my previous rims, so I'm actually not going to count that. Hub adapters cost $126, and your hub-centric ring costs about $12.99, next day delivery from Amazon. So, you're talking less than $525 invested if my math is right. $350, $450, $20, actually less than $500, I'm sorry. Around $480 was spent on this total wheel makeover. So if you like my content, please subscribe. I'm here to show you anything you can do yourself. You don't have to pay people to do stuff. If I had spent 4,000 when I've attempted to re-drill it. No. But spending $350, having conversations, kind of understanding what they were going to do played a big part in this, and saying, okay, it was like, it was millimeter. It was like 0.1, 0.2 mil. I mean, it was so tight. It was like, okay, I can go ahead and figure this out myself. But it was really for the conical part to seat, right? So there you have it. Everything is seated. Let me know what you think about the car. Till next time, YouTube.